My parents snubbed my wedding, but after they spotted my $135,000 Porsche on Instagram, Mom called. We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow. I turned up with a big surprise. Can you imagine standing there on your wedding day, in your perfect dress, your heart practically bursting, only to realize that the people who should be there, your own family, have chosen not to show up? What would you do when the very people who gave you life abandoned you at your most vulnerable, and then years later, came crawling back because they suddenly needed something? I was in the bridal suite at Willamette Valley Vineyard, staring at my reflection in the full-length mirror. My wedding dress, it fit perfectly, every seam, every tiny crystal exactly where it should be. The makeup artist, she had outdone herself. My eyes looked wider, cheekbones more defined, lips the perfect rose. The white roses in my bouquet rested on the vanity. I checked my phone for the 14th time in 20 minutes. No messages. Nothing from Mom, nothing from Dad. Not even a text from my brother, Logan. A soft knock and Martha, my wedding planner, poked her head in. Her practiced smile was barely hiding her concern. It's time, Caroline. Are you ready? My eyes drifted to the window overlooking the ceremony. 90 guests were seated, the string quartet playing softly. And there, in the front row, 3 empty seats. They stared back at me, like accusations. They're not coming, are they? My voice trembled, despite my best efforts. Martha's smile faltered. There's still time, she said, but we both knew it was a lie. I took a deep breath, smoothed the silk of my gown. Let's go. The doors to the garden opened, and all 90 heads turned to watch me walk alone down the aisle. I could feel their sympathetic gazes, little pats of pity that made my skin crawl. Some whispered behind cupped hands. Others offered encouraging smiles that only made the hollow feeling in my chest expand. My focus narrowed to Ethan, waiting at the altar, his eyes steady on mine. The love radiating from him was almost enough to push away the memory of my mother's voice, just 3 days ago. We'll try, sweetie. Logan's firm has an event that weekend. Her dismissive tone had cut through the phone like she was declining a casual lunch, not her only daughter's wedding. I can pay for the flights, I'd offered, desperation clawing at my throat. The hotel. Anything, please, Mom. In the background, Dad's voice had drifted through. Tell her we're busy now. Placing one foot in front of the other, I forced myself to breathe. In, out. One step, another. I would not cry. I would not give them the satisfaction. Even in their absence. When I reached Ethan, he took my hands. His fingers were warm, solid, real. I'm here, he whispered, too low for anyone else to hear. We're enough. For a moment, I was 8 years old again, standing in our living room while Mom and Dad fussed over Logan's debate trophy. They positioned it carefully, took photos. My art contest certificate sat forgotten in a kitchen drawer. That's nice, honey, Mom had said, barely glancing at it. Later, Dad had ruffled my hair. Logan needs more support. He's going places. You understand, don't you, Caroline? And Mom, never missing an opportunity. Why can't you be more like your brother? He focuses on what matters. I tried harder after that. Academic awards, college scholarships, business success. Each achievement a desperate attempt to turn their heads in my direction. Each one noted with distracted acknowledgement, if acknowledged at all. The ceremony continued around me. I said my vows, my voice growing stronger with each promise. I choose a future based on seeing each other clearly. I told Ethan, the words carrying more weight than anyone but him understood. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, Ethan's mother enveloped me in a warm embrace. You're one of us now, dear, she whispered, and something tight in my chest loosened. Just a fraction. The photographer captured us on the dance floor, Ethan twirling me under the string lights. His cousins joined us, forming a circle of laughter and music. For moments at a time, I forgot about the family-shaped hole in my celebration. I forgot about the phone I'd checked too many times, the explanations I'd given to curious guests. At the reception, Sarah, my college roommate, raised her glass. To finding the family who deserves you, she said, her eyes holding mine with fierce loyalty. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. All these years, I'd been invisible to the people who should have seen me most clearly. I'd been chasing approval from those who never intended to give it. When the celebration quieted, I slipped away to check my phone one last time. No missed calls, no messages. Not even a token. Congratulations. Ethan found me there, staring at the blank screen. They missed something beautiful today, he said, wrapping an arm around my waist. I looked up at him, at the man who had never once made me feel like I needed to earn his attention. I thought of his family who welcomed me without reservation. I thought of friends who traveled across the country to stand beside me. I set the phone down. Their choice, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. Not my burden. And for the first time, I almost believed it. 2 years later, I leaned back in my ergonomic chair, staring at a notification on my computer screen. Acquisition of Crescent Motion Studio finalized at $21 million. 2 years of negotiation, 5 years of building from scratch, and now validation in the form of 8 figures. My office door burst open. My team flooded in with bottles of champagne and plastic flutes. To Caroline! Jen, my creative director, raised her glass. The woman who built something from nothing while certain people weren't looking. I smiled, clinking glasses with the 12 people who actually showed up for me. Unlike my family. We were celebrating when my phone buzzed. An Instagram notification. Logan, posting about his twins' private school fundraiser. I shouldn't look. I did anyway. There they were. Mom and Dad, flanking Logan and his wife Hannah, their identical daughters in matching plaid uniforms. The caption read, "Family tradition continues. 3rd generation at Westridge Academy." Dad's arm was draped around Logan's shoulder. Mom beaming at her granddaughters. I swiped through more photos. Logan's family vacation to Hawaii last month. The holiday gathering I wasn't invited to. Dad's retirement party. In each one, they looked like the perfect American family, minus one daughter. What was more telling than the photos was what they represented. That vacation rental in Maui? At least $5,000 a week. Westridge Academy? $30,000 a year per child. Logan's house, in the background of several shots, sat in a neighborhood where nothing sold for under $2 million. All funded by my parents' retirement savings and family investments, according to the gossip from distant cousins who occasionally remembered I exist. Caroline? Jen touched my arm. We lost you for a minute. I locked my phone screen. Just checking messages. Where were we? The celebration continued, but I was mentally calculating. Logan's law firm was moderately successful, but nowhere near the level that would support this lifestyle. My parents had been quietly propping him up for years, depleting their retirement to maintain his image. Meanwhile, my $21 million acquisition didn't warrant so much as a text message. After the team left, I scrolled through my parents' social media. Hundreds of posts about Logan's accomplishments, the twins' milestones, family gatherings. My existence? Limited to a single birthday wish last year, a generic, "Happy birthday, Caroline," without even a photo. I closed my laptop and made a decision. The next morning, I called my financial advisor. The Porsche. Tan metallic gray. I want to complete the purchase today. 3 hours later, I was signing paperwork for a $350,000 car. It was extravagant. Unnecessary. And exactly what I wanted. Not because I needed my family's approval, but because I never needed their money. Back home, I took a single photo of the car in my driveway, the afternoon sun gleaming off its metallic finish. I posted it to Instagram with a simple caption. Dreams realized. For 3 days, nothing. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in 5 years. Mom calling. My stomach tightened as I answered. Hello, Caroline. Mom's voice carried that particular blend of authority and urgency she reserved for a family crisis. We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow. Family meeting? I repeated, hearing the disbelief in my voice. After 5 years of silence, you're calling about a family meeting? This is important. She paused, and I heard Dad's voice in the background. Tell her it's important. As though I couldn't hear him. What's important? I asked. My wedding wasn't important. My business wasn't important. What exactly matters now? Mom's voice tightened. It's complicated. Financial issues. We need to discuss it as a family. Of course. They saw the car. They knew about the acquisition. Now, suddenly, I was family again. Tomorrow at 2, I said before hanging up. The next morning, I slid into my new Porsche, the leather seat cool against my back. The drive to my childhood home took 40 minutes. Time enough to remember birthdays celebrated without me. Achievements unacknowledged. Holidays spent alone while they gathered without me. I parked in the circular driveway, my metallic gray Porsche looking starkly modern against their traditional colonial. For a moment, I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel. The last time I stood on that porch was 6 years ago, when I'd announced my engagement to Ethan. Mom had nodded politely while Dad checked his watch repeatedly, clearly waiting for me to leave. They'd never needed me before. Why now? My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Remember who you are. Call me if you need extraction. I smiled despite myself. Another notification. An email from Naomi Blake, the investor who believed in Crescent Motion when no one else would. Your worth isn't measured by those who couldn't see it. A final alert. My assistant confirming tomorrow's meetings. Don't let them take too much time. You have the production review at 4. Come on, I whispered. I took a deep breath, remembering my therapist's words from last week's session. Boundaries aren't punishments, they're protection. I straightened my shoulders and stepped out of the car. Before I could knock, the front door swung open. Mom and Dad stood there, their expressions shifting from annoyance to shock as they took in the Porsche behind me. You've done well for yourself, Dad said. Not. Hello? Not. I've missed you. Just an assessment of my financial worth. Yes, I replied simply. No hugs, no warmth. They led me to the dining room table where Logan and Hannah already sat. Their faces were a study in calculated concern. Caroline. Logan nodded as though we spoke last week instead of 5 years ago. Let's get straight to business, Dad said, pulling out financial folders. I remained standing, my purse strapped tight in my grip. The only outward sign of the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. No, I said. First, I'd like to know why I'm suddenly important enough to include in family discussions after being excluded from everything else for years. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. Logan shifted uncomfortably. We can discuss that later, Mom said, her voice slipping into the dismissive tone I knew too well. We have more pressing matters now. I'm not in a rush, I replied, still standing. And I'm not interested in being convenient family only when you need something. For the first time in my adult life, I saw uncertainty flicker across my father's face. In this moment, I understood, they needed me now. And for once, I had the power to decide what happened next. The dining room of my childhood home felt smaller than I remembered. Richard sat at the head of the table, hands folded like he was presiding over a board meeting rather than a family crisis. Elaine perched beside him, her posture perfect despite the worry lines creasing her forehead. Across from me, Logan slumped in his chair, his designer shirt wrinkled. Hannah sat beside him, a leather photo album open on her lap. It's foreclosure, Caroline. Richard's voice was firm, but carried an unfamiliar tremor. Logan's mortgage is 3 months behind. The twins' private school tuition is unpaid for the semester. I said nothing, letting the silence stretch. 2 years of no contact, and this is what brought us together. You need to help your brother. Richard slid a document across the polished oak table. Loan paperwork, already filled out. The presumption stole my breath. Think about your niece and nephew. Elaine's voice caught. A practiced hitch that once would have sent me scrambling to please her. They're just children. They shouldn't suffer because of financial difficulties. Logan leaned forward, eyes narrowed. We're family. That's what family does. When one of us succeeds, we help the others. Hannah flipped the album open wider, pushing it toward me. They ask about Aunt Caroline all the time, she said, pointing to photos of children I barely recognized, their faces shining at a birthday party I wasn't invited to. Maddie wants to know why you never visit. Richard cleared his throat. We've done everything we could. Our retirement fund is... He trailed off, exchanging a look with Elaine. We've been supporting them as best we can. The implication hung in the air. My success meant I owed them. My independence was selfish in the face of family need. I closed the photo album and slid it back across the table. Where were you at my wedding? The question fell from my lips with surprising calm. Logan blinked. What? My wedding? 2 years ago. Where were you? Elaine's hand fluttered to her throat. We were busy. Logan had that event with his firm. It wasn't convenient, Richard added, as if commenting on a missed dinner party. I nodded slowly, feeling something crystallize inside me. And yet here you are now. Because you saw the Porsche on Instagram. You only contacted me because you saw the car. Logan's face flushed. That's not fair, is it? I sat straighter, feeling the power of my financial independence in my spine. Where there once was an anxious curve, there was steel. I built everything alone. Every scholarship, every client, every late night. Where were any of you? Richard's eyes narrowed. What's that got to do with the current situation? Everything. I folded my hands on the table, mirroring his posture. I'm listening. Tell me why I should write a check today. Logan slammed his hand on the table. You always had to prove something. Always showing off how smart you were, how creative, how special. Some of us were just trying to live normal lives. Richard's hand settled on Logan's shoulder. Your brother had more potential. We had to nurture that. You were always so independent. We're still your parents, Elaine whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. Despite everything, I said, my voice steady, surprising even myself. You were parents in title only. You missed my high school graduation. You missed my college scholarship ceremony. You missed the launch of my company. You missed my wedding. I tapped the table with each missed milestone. You missed my life. And now you want to share in what that life has built? Caroline. Richard started. You didn't build this success for you to share it. I continued. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I glanced down to see Ethan's message. You okay? Meeting running long. In my peripheral vision, the sight of his name brought back Naomi Blake's words when she invested in my startup. You don't need approval from anyone who can't see your light. I thought of my team at Crescent Motion, their faces shining as we toasted the acquisition. People who chose to see me, to support me, to believe in what I could build. In my briefcase rested the contract for the foundation funding, signed by the board last Tuesday. People who trusted me with purpose, not just money. Richard slid the loan paperwork closer to me. We're only asking for what's reasonable. Family helps family. The interest rate is quite fair, Elaine added as if offering a favor. Logan's smirk returned, confident now. Blood is thicker than water, Caro. I stood slowly, deliberately. The motion drew their eyes, their bodies leaning forward expectantly. I reached for my briefcase and set it on the table with a soft thud. I've made a different decision, I said. Logan's eyes fixed on my hands as I unlatched the briefcase. Richard shifted forward. Elaine's fingers twisted the napkin in her lap. Instead of a checkbook, I withdrew a single document and placed it on the table. This is the announcement for the Rivera Media Scholarship Foundation. $16 million to create opportunities for young women in digital media arts. I smoothed the paper with my fingertips. The press release goes out tomorrow morning. 16 million? Logan choked out the number. Named after Ms. Rivera, my high school media arts teacher. The woman who attended my gallery showings when my family was too busy. The money is legally protected in a foundation trust. The board approved the allocation last week. Silence fell like concrete across the table. I'm helping girls who never got the applause I didn't get, I said, gathering my belongings. That's what family means to me. Logan's face contorted, veins standing out on his forehead. You're wasting it on strangers. On nobodies. Girls who deserve better than what I got. I snapped my briefcase closed. Girls who need someone to see them, to invest in them. My parents sat stunned, staring at the paper that represented millions they'd never touch. I picked up my phone, turning the screen toward them. A recording app displayed an active timer. 36:41 and counting. I've also documented every manipulative message from today, I said quietly. Every threat, every demand, every guilt trip, just in case anyone gets creative with legal claims against the foundation. I walked toward the door, my footsteps echoing in the silence behind me. I heard Logan's chair scrape back violently. You can't just leave. His voice cracked. We need that money. I paused at the threshold, not turning back. No, Logan. What you needed was to show up. At my graduation, at my company launch, at my wedding. I placed my hand on the doorknob. But that opportunity has passed. The door closed behind me with a soft click that sounded like freedom. The Porsche purred beneath me as I drove away from my childhood home. My knuckles no longer white on the steering wheel. The further I got, the steadier my hands became. I pressed the call button on my dashboard. It's done, I told Ethan when he answered. They showed exactly who they are. How bad was it? His voice filled the car, concern wrapped around each word. Exactly what we expected. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in hours. Logan lost his mind when I showed him the foundation paperwork. Dad tried to salvage the situation, but Mom just kept crying about family obligation. Are you okay? A fair question. I glanced at myself in the rearview mirror, surprised to find no tears, no flush of embarrassment, only a clear-eyed woman looking back. I'm better than okay. For the first time, I saw them clearly without hoping for something different. I'm proud of you, Ethan said. Remember, Foundation Board meeting at 9 tomorrow morning. Everything's ready for the press announcement. The timing had been deliberate. Establish the foundation legally before any family confrontation. Schedule the announcement before they could regroup. No emotional pleas. Just legal structures they couldn't penetrate. The Rivera Media Scholarship would be my legacy. Not a family drama. I'll be ready, I promised, ending the call. The first message came at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, my phone buzzed continuously with family emergency texts. I silenced it and placed it face down on my nightstand. The house was quiet, except for Ethan's steady breathing beside me. I didn't need to read their messages to know what they contained. Morning brought 6 voicemails from my mother. The progression was evident in her tone, from weepy pleas about family unity to sharp accusations of betrayal, culminating in threats about what people will think of a daughter abandoning her family in their time of need. You've dealt with worse, I told myself as I applied mascara, the morning routine grounding me. My navy suit, the one I wore when signing the acquisition papers, hung ready on the closet door. Ethan handed me coffee in my favorite mug. Logan's been calling business associates, he said, scrolling through his phone. And your dad tried reaching my uncle. Predictable. I took a sip. The coffee bitter but fortifying. They're moving faster than I expected, but not more cleverly. The Foundation Board meeting went smoothly. 12 accomplished women from media and finance. All personally vetted, all committed to supporting young female artists. The press release was approved unanimously. Launch details finalized. The first scholarship recipient would be selected in 6 months. I was reviewing the event venue proposal when Janine from reception called. Miss Rivers, your family is here. They're causing quite a scene. Through the glass walls of my office, I could see security already moving toward the lobby. I straightened papers that didn't need straightening. Have security escort them out, please. Calmly and professionally. I watched through the windows as my mother's voice rose over the general office hum. My daughter is abandoning her family. Her hands gestured wildly, her pearl earrings swinging. Logan stood beside her, arms crossed, face flushed with the particular shade of red it used to turn when he was denied something as a child. My team watched me for cues. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked to my office door. It's being handled, I told them with a calm I'd practiced for this moment. Let's continue with our work. Security escorted my family toward the elevators. Logan's voice carried back. This isn't over. We have family obligations you can't just ignore. That evening, I drafted a single email to all three of them. I have documented your harassment at my workplace. Any further attempts to contact me at my office will result in a formal complaint. All communication regarding family matters must be directed through my attorney, whose contact information is attached. Caroline. Direct and clear, said Patricia, my therapist. 2 days later, we sat in her sunlit office, the faint smell of jasmine tea between us. How did it feel sending that? Necessary. I traced a pattern on the armchair. Not satisfying, exactly. More like setting a boundary. She offered. Yes. I looked up at her. They're showing who they've always been, aren't they? People tend to reveal themselves under pressure, Patricia said. What you're seeing now isn't new behavior. Just intensified. The realization washed over me. Simple, but profound. I wanted their love, but they wanted my resources. That's an important distinction. All those years, my voice trailed off as connections formed. The childhood neglect, the absent parents, the way they appeared only when I had something to offer. It wasn't my job to earn their love. It was their job to give it freely. And now I know I'm not responsible for fixing them, I said, feeling the truth of it settle in my bones. There's freedom in that. The next morning brought news that Logan had contacted the Portland Chronicle about a family dispute. The reporter, smarter than Logan anticipated, asked why none of them attended my wedding. The resulting story painted a picture Logan hadn't intended, of parents absent during milestones, suddenly interested when money appeared. My mother's social media rant generated an unexpected wave of support for me. Former classmates, business associates, even distant relatives reached out with messages of solidarity. We always wondered why they never talked about your success, wrote a cousin I hadn't seen in years. Richard's attempts to contact my investors fizzled when they refused to discuss a personal matter. The community rallied around the Scholarship Foundation instead. Applications were already pouring in months before the official launch. The Portland Business Journal requested an interview about the foundation. I agreed, setting clear parameters. We'd discuss the scholarship's purpose and impact, not family matters. The reporter, Delia Warren, met me at the foundation's temporary office space. This is an impressive initiative, she said, reviewing the prospectus. $16 million is substantial seed funding. What inspired such generosity? I considered my words carefully. I had a teacher who saw potential in me when others didn't. Miss Rivera changed my life by simply paying attention. I want to create that opportunity for young women who might otherwise be overlooked. You've built an impressive career, Dalia noted. Crescent Motion's acquisition was one of the biggest tech stories last year. Is your family proud? The question hung between us. I could dodge it, redirect to safer territory. Instead, I met her eyes directly. My success was built without family support. They weren't at my wedding, my graduation, or when I sold my company. Dalia's pen paused. That provides interesting context for the Foundation's mission. Later that week, the article appeared with the headline, Self-Made Success Creates Legacy of Support. The contrast between my generosity and my family's entitlement became public narrative. When news of Logan's house foreclosure broke days later, the community connected the dots without my saying a word. Ethan handled increased security protocols at our home. My business team managed communication strategy, filtering messages and prioritizing foundation work. Naomi Blake, my first investor and mentor, released a statement supporting my commitment to lifting others rather than enabling dependency. My college friends formed a protective circle, filling our calendar with dinners and events that left no room for dwelling on family drama. Patricia provided anchoring during weekly sessions. The United Front became its own kind of family, chosen, intentional, supportive. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I received the Business Leadership Award from the Women in Media Alliance. Standing at the podium, looking out at faces that genuinely celebrated my success, I realized the tables had completely turned. My parents' retirement plans were now delayed indefinitely. Hannah's social position in her precious country club circles had eroded with their financial collapse. Logan's twins were transferred to public school next semester. Meanwhile, the foundation thrived, generating positive coverage that spread beyond Portland. The story resonated not because I sought revenge, but because I chose to transform pain into purpose. The scholarship committee has selected 3 finalists for the first award. Janine told me, placing the portfolios on my desk. They'd like your input by Friday. I opened the first file and began reviewing the work of a young woman whose teacher noticed her talent when no one else did. The circle completed itself, healing through action rather than looking backward. Family defined by what it does, not what it claims to be. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. In the weeks to follow, I deleted the 4th voicemail from Aunt Meredith without listening past her plea of, "Everyone misses you, Caroline." The Thanksgiving invitation sat in my email inbox, its subject line, "Family needs to be together." A transparent attempt at manipulation. My phone chimed with a text from my cousin Drew. "I don't understand this rift between you and Uncle Richard. Can't you just talk to them?" Of course, he didn't understand. He wasn't at my empty wedding. He didn't witness 20 years of invisibility. A letter arrived yesterday from Mom. The elegant handwriting, unmistakably hers. "We always believed in you," she wrote, as if rewriting our entire history. The envelope sat half-burned in my fireplace, its edges curled and blackened like the lies it contained. "Dad called my office directly last week. We need to clear the air," he said, his voice lacking any acknowledgement of what they'd done. My assistant, following strict instructions, told him I was unavailable permanently. The final straw came when Logan sent the twins to my office with handmade cards. "We miss Aunt Caroline," written in childish handwriting I knew wasn't theirs. The manipulation was so transparent it made my stomach turn. They're using every emotional lever they can find, Ethan observed that evening, examining the cards on our kitchen counter. They're desperate. I flipped through the week's collection of attempts. But they still haven't actually apologized. The family attorney called next, his voice professionally neutral. "There are moral obligations to consider, Caroline. Family ties carry certain responsibilities." The implication was clear. I was the villain in their story. The heartless daughter who abandoned her struggling family. Pastor Wilson from the church I stopped attending years ago left a voicemail. "Your parents are deeply concerned. Perhaps we could meet to discuss reconciliation." 2 childhood friends, neither of whom I'd spoken to in a decade, suddenly reached out. "Your parents seem so heartbroken," said one. "The holidays are for forgiveness," said the other. When Logan's wife, Hannah, emailed photos of the twins in Halloween costumes. "The children ask about you constantly." I nearly threw my phone across the room. They're framing this entire situation as my responsibility. I told my therapist during our weekly session. My forgiveness, my duty, my failure to be the bigger person. "And how does that make you feel?" she asked, her eyes steady on mine. "Angry," I admitted, "but also validated. They wouldn't fight this hard if they weren't afraid of losing control." The foundation selection meeting provided an unexpected challenge. The committee recommended a scholarship for Maya Harrison, a 17-year-old filmmaker whose application video showed remarkable talent and painful familiarity. "She reminds me of myself," I told Ethan that night. Quiet, determined, overlooked. I watched her interview video again. Maya's eyes held the same weariness I saw in my own wedding photos. She talked about finding her voice through filmmaking when her family couldn't hear her. What if I'm wrong to cut them off completely? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Ethan sat beside me on the couch. What brought this on? Maya. If I'm telling these girls to find their strength, am I modeling that by running away from my family? Is setting boundaries running away? Ethan asked. I considered this. No, boundaries aren't abandonment. What would you tell Maya if her family treated her like yours treated you? The answer came easily. I'd tell her she deserves people who see her worth. The Thursday before Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at our home. The dining room table extended to accommodate everyone. Ethan beside me, Naomi across from us, my business team scattered between. Maya sat at the opposite end, her scholarship certificate framed on the sideboard behind her. Our home glowed with warmth my parents' house never had. Candles flickered in silver holders. Laughter rang against the ceiling. No one here needed to prove their worth to be seen. I raised my glass. I said, to those who see us as we are. The toast echoed around the table. My phone stayed off, notifications silenced. The meal unfolded in perfect rhythm. Conversations flowing without the undercurrent of judgment I grew up with. Over dessert, I announced the Foundation's new mentorship program. I'll be personally involved with each recipient. I explained. We're creating connections that matter. Maya's eyes widened. You'll be mentoring us yourself? Every step of the way? I smiled at her. This foundation isn't just about money. It's about building something meaningful together. Naomi nodded approvingly. You've created structures that can't be interfered with. The foundation's independence is legally secured. I confirmed. Its success will be measured by impact, not approval. Later, as we cleared plates, Ethan turned on the local news. Right on schedule, the feature about the foundation aired, strategically timed to coincide with my family's traditional dinner hour. On screen, I spoke with confidence I'd earned. We build family through action, not obligation. The report transitioned to financial analysis, contrasting the Foundation's transparent governance with examples of mismanagement, including a not-so-subtle reference to Logan's business failures. Maya watched transfixed. They're actually comparing your brother's company to the Foundation? Facts speak for themselves. I stacked dessert plates with steady hands. The community had validated what my family refused to see. The following morning, my parents requested a meeting at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived in the Porsche, the car that triggered their sudden interest after years of silence. Dad looked older than I remembered, defeat etched into lines around his mouth. We should have been there, he admitted, staring at his untouched coffee. At the wedding? I asked, though I knew that wasn't all he meant. Everywhere. His voice cracked. All those years. Mom's eyes shimmered with tears. How can we fix this? The question hung between us. 3 months ago, I might have grabbed at this opening, desperate for any acknowledgement. Now I felt only calm clarity. Some things can't be fixed. I told them. Only accepted. Mom flinched. I'm not closing the door forever. I continued. But I need accountability, not convenience. I'll consider limited contact after you both start therapy. That's unnecessary. Dad began, the old dismissiveness rising. It's non-negotiable. I sipped my tea, the warmth spreading through my chest like certainty. They exchanged glances. The silent communication of people who never expected consequences for their choices. Logan's financial collapse had stripped away their illusions of his superiority. My success existed beyond their reach. The Foundation thrived independent of their approval. When they left, no agreements had been made. No concessions offered. I watched them walk to their car, a sensible sedan now, the luxury vehicles long gone. I drove away without looking back. Freedom replacing obligation in every beat of my heart. The Foundation awaits. Maya's project needs review. My chosen family expects me for dinner. For the first time, I'm moving towards something instead of away from someone. And that makes all the difference. I stood in the sunlit studio of the Crescent Foundation, watching Maya adjust her camera settings. The morning light filtered through the tall windows, casting golden patterns across the polished hardwood floor. It had been a year since I faced my family for the last time. What do you think about this angle? Maya looked up, her eyes bright with the same creative fire Miss Rivera once saw in mine. Try moving it slightly to the left. Catch how the light falls across the subject. My voice carried the confidence of a mentor now, not the desperate plea of a daughter seeking approval. On the wall behind Maya, photos documented our scholarship recipients' projects. Stories they never could have told without the Foundation's support. Each frame represented a voice that might have been silenced, just as mine nearly was. My office here replaced the childhood bedroom where I once dreamed of being seen. Every element, from the ergonomic chair to the awards displayed without apology on floating shelves, I chose deliberately. Nothing inherited, nothing tainted by obligation or guilt. I've finished the final cut of my documentary, Maya said, straightening up. Would you watch it with me? We moved to the editing bay where her project played on the high-definition monitor. The documentary followed 3 generations of women in a rural Oregon family. Their struggles and resiliencies beautifully captured through